I like to do is go down the first 6 inches and read the gauge, then go down another 6 inches and read the gauge, and another 6 to 18 inches and read the gauge, which all that showed not compacted.
Are a lot of farmers surprised when you get down to that 18-inch mark and they realize they have compaction deep down that maybe they didn't realize?
I don't think me telling them helps anything, and what we usually like to do is do it when we have something in the field, and usually when I find a compacted area, we will dig up the plant, and usually you'll see the roots going like this, and then we'll pull a good plant which shows a lot of growth and stuff on it, and that seems to get their attention by doing it that way.
In fact, Kevin had a customer that always comes to mind in this, that he'd been running a grass cover crop for a number of years, and we did compaction out on that farm, and that top 6 inches was just perfect. I mean, it proved the cover crop was doing its job. Mm-hmm. When we got to that, it was around 200 pounds per square inch. When we got that 6 to 12, they were running 400 to 600 pounds. But when we got to that 12 to 18, it was running 800 pounds plus. And, digging up roots, seeing what was going on, it did two things for the guy. He realized it was a good thing he had rain that year. But more importantly, he made a purchase for some tillage equipment and changed the mix of his cover crop. So now he was starting a system to get deeper into his compaction issues. So if you're looking for some of that return on a dollar that you guys were talking about earlier, that really shows that management practices were working, but now what's the next step? And it's always a system, and it's like Weston was talking earlier, we're always learning. What does this look like today? It's not going to look like it tomorrow.
Right, right.
Not only their row passes, but ours as well, trying to size equipment to where we're all making the same track. And some of the ones that's been, a couple years into that process, we're starting to see where overall the field's showing an improvement, but the shortfall is in those tracks. If it's the harvester track, the planter track, the plowing track, the spreading track, that those areas we're looking into how to manage those difference, because you have those tracks that are now heavily compacted, but we can plan those where they're in between crop rows, where they're designated to areas to minimize being in the whole field. Some of the areas that we have the most compaction, where we had truck crops, whether they're vegetable crops, tobacco crops, and they were over the years kind of haphazard in how they drove. They drove the whole field however they had to get them out. Mm-hmm. and looking at that compaction, it's a long-term process in correcting, and it can be a very short process in creating. It's one of those things that everyone's busy, and their time, it's really hard to convince them that that 12 hours of waiting until tomorrow for the field to dry to be in it and is invaluable. But we all think that we have to go, and looking using some of the other tools available and tracking weather, and a lot of our farmers are 50-mile radius between all of their farms. We may have weather in one area that's not in the other, and helping them, where do I go? Where do I go today? Where do we go with our spreading? Where do we go? To not be in an area that we're going to potentially cause that problem to try and solve.
And I think, like Weston was saying, they know they did it. That's not the issue, but when these guys are going out with these meters and now they're quantifying the extent, I think it's a big surprise to some of these guys, and especially in that deeper aspect of it. Now that stratification is starting to take a real toll on their production capabilities.
Normally how we do it, now it's not so much me, it's my salesmen. They've been trained to sell precision ag and do all this. I'm pretty much their backup. What I like to do is when we get results back, they'll give me an idea of what yield they want to hit, and I'll write a Rex on just pH, P and K, and give them an idea of what it looks like. It's the salesman's job, and also the farmer, to go over to see if they're deficient in everything else. Boron, do we need to put boron out or whatever? And the great thing about the twin bin machine we have is I can variable rate one thing and run a straight rate on the other. So if it doesn't need 1152 or phosphorus or whatever, we can run a straight rate of ammonia sulfate with boron in it, you know, across it while we're variable rating the potash. So that it gives them an idea of what it looks like, and then those two will make the determination what we're going to do and how we're going to do it.
So it's, again, kind of comes back to that collaboration.
Yes.
And working with them, not having kind of that single touch point for a customer, having multiple people that are going to be involved in that and getting the right message. And like you said, I mean, if with you guys doing the prescriptions, you guys are, as you mentioned, kind of on the hook for the results. So you want to make sure you're giving them the right information. So.
And I think one of the things that we have on as whole as Southern States is kind of like what I'd seen at a conference I was at. They talked about the farmers really want a deep bench. They don't expect one guy to know it all. And especially when it comes to the precision ag side of the business, you know, Chris isn't by himself, because he has peers like Weston, like Kevin, that he can call and say, hey, I've run into this, and they're getting that practical side of it. But they also have myself and my team in Richmond that they can call and say, hey, I was thinking about, and they can start bouncing ideas off of us. And from our experience and the rest of the industry, we can help give that feedback. And so I think we provide a pretty deep bench on how we can approach any type of issue or obstacle in crop production.